So for the final segment in this series, we're going to talk about what happens just prior to the closing and at closing. This is going to be the shortest video because typically once you're past all the other previous phases, this is the easy part. So just prior to closing, 3 days prior to closing, the buyer is going to receive what's known as an Alta statement. The Alta statement is basically kind of a receipt of the transaction. It shows where all the money went in the transaction, make sure everything is correct, and then it'll also show the buyer how much money they need to bring to closing for their down payment and closing costs, if there are some that are negotiated. And then 24 hours prior to the closing, I would recommend that the buyer go ahead and make the wire transfer to the closing company that's going to be closing it. Those wiring instructions would be provided by the closing company to maintain integrity and make sure nobody steals the wire. When all parties attend the closing, it is recommended to bring 2 forms of ID, at least 1 picture ID. So driver's license, passport would work, but the secondary form of ID can be, library card, gun carry permit, anything that basically has your name on it that's a kind of official document. You'll sit down at the closing table, the seller will sign some paperwork, the buyer will sign some paperwork that will secure their loan and help them purchase the property. And then in most transactions, the buyer gains possession of the keys at closing. This is called disbursement. And the money would be dispersed to the seller. And that would be how a closing would be conducted. And then you'd have a new home, seller would have a check for selling the property, and that would be the end of the deal. If you have any questions on anything that I've said, please feel free to reach out to me directly. I'd be happy to go into greater detail about any of this. Thanks.